Evening and welcome to Personality Profile here on Joy99.7 FM. I'm sure you know I love Thursday evenings because we get to interact with amazing people who are serving the land and who are inspiring many, including me. And this evening I have one such great man, a son of the land who is doing so well for Ghana in a very special capacity. We get to know a bit about him, his journey, his life, and learn from him as well on Personality Profile. Before I tell you who he is, though, you're live on Facebook, so you can actually check out this video. If you're listening to us on radio, you can check out the video on our Facebook page. You can share it. You can send the link across to your friends and family so that they can learn. They can also join in the conversation and learn from my guest here on Personality Profile. I'm Lexus Bill. Now, my guest tonight is a successful international corporate business executive with experience in strategy and business leadership, banking, finance, taxation. He has worked in various capacities over the past several years, such as Managing Director and CEO of Bank of Africa, Tanzania, Managing Director and CEO of Unibank Ghana Limited. He also worked as the Group Head of Operations for EcoBank Transnational Incorporated, based in Togo. Currently, he is the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, responsible for the overall management and strategy formulation of the Ghana Revenue Authority that covers collection of customs taxes and domestic taxes for Ghana. He's one of the most experienced and most respected business leaders in Ghana. He has a mighty name, literally. His name is actually one of the few names compounded with the name of God, Shaddai. Yeah. Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu Amwa is my guest on Personality Profile this evening. Also for Akwaba.
Yeah.
Really good to have you.
Happy to be here too.
And you have a huge name. Hey, Amishadai.
I always wonder where my father picked it from.
I wonder too.
From the
You
Bible.
never asked him.
Oh, I asked him. I did ask him.
I know it's from the Bible.
Yeah, but he told me. He told me that there was one Ghanaian called Amishadai Edu,
Okay.
who became very successful as a civil servant, and he inspired him a lot.
Uh-huh.
So when I happened to also be called Edu, because he named me after his mother, who was called Edubia.
Okay.
And so in Equiapim, if the mother is Edubia, then you become Edu.
Okay.
So when he was naming me after the mother Edu, and then he also remembered this Amishadai Edu. So then he said, okay, let's give him Amishadai.
So this was not a motivation from numbers in the Bible.
No, not motivation for the numbers in the Bible. Actually, one of the Bibles that he had, I saw that initially he wrote my name as Enoch.
Enoch.
And then somewhere along the line, he cancelled it and wrote Amishadai.
What a wonderful name it is. Really glad to have you here on Personality Profile. But was he into ministry?
Oh, yes, he's actually very, he's a Christian and very religious, and his grandfather was actually into full-time ministry. His father, that's my grandfather,
yes,
was into full-time ministry.
But he wasn't.
Oh,
okay.
He was a teacher. In fact, he taught in a number of secondary schools and headed a number of secondary schools.
Yeah. You know, I'm actually asking all of this because you have a lot of Bible in you. You're a reverend minister yourself.
Yes.
And then you are a tax collector. So Amishadai is Zacchaeus. How's that panning out? Are you taking any lessons from the story of Zacchaeus?
Oh, yes. I think that sometimes I tell people that sometimes when people give the accusations about maybe tax people not being straightforward and things like that, and I tell people that don't worry, because as far back as in the times of in the Bible, when they were citing examples of sinners, they were using the tax collector.
Yes.
It says the tax collector was there, and then Jesus was eating with the tax collector, and they would say, "Why are you eating with sinners?" So that perception has been there for long. But the important thing is for us to ensure that the perception is not a reality.
That's true.
And that is important for every life.
Do you think you have managed to change that perception?
Oh, we are on course. I mean, changing such things is not
it will take generations.
but we definitely have to make sure that during your time,
you
you continue to make such an impact.
That's right.
And people will look at you and they'll be convinced that what's the perception is not reality as far as this person is concerned.
That's good. I mean, I spoke to a lot of people who agree that you are actually changing the perception and leading very well. And that's why tonight we decided to have you on Personality Profile. So I'm grateful that you make time to come today.
Thank you.
You have
very
a very
much.
busy schedule. What's a typical day like?
Yeah, it's quite sometimes you can plan your day, and by the time you get to the office, other things come in. You have to run to the minister. You have to run to maybe do a presentation at EMT or something like that. So sometimes it gets distorted, but you have got to still make sure that you plan it. And then again, you have your numbers, and you need to make sure that you are checking and seeing whether you are moving towards the direction that you have agreed, and also making sure that your strategy is on course. And you know, strategy, once you have it, you've got to be having tactics that we are tracking on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because it's the tracking of those things on a daily basis that eventually leads to the success of the strategy.
Yeah.
So if you don't monitor, it doesn't get done. So it can get very, very busy. And then at the same time, I have to do my other things.
I can imagine. You know, talk of other things. You just graduated. You're a doctor now. You just bagged your doctorate. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So I was really thinking about all of that and the busy schedule. And I'm like, how do you even get time to do a doctorate? Man, it must have been really draining.
Yes, it was. I did it at the Nobel International Business School, which is affiliated to the Swiss Business School.
Okay.
And normally the program is a kind of a modular program. So you go once every quarter, and you have a complete weekend of Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Wow.
for all the 3 days.
Wow.
And then after that, you have papers to submit.
Yeah.
And then intermittently, you have exams to do. And so it wasn't easy. And then what I try to do is, and I've done it before, so I always try to make sure that I don't fall behind in the submission dates of assignments. And it's very key, because if you fall behind the one and you don't try to catch up, and then you end up two, then you get to the point where you just feel like, I cannot catch up any longer, and I want to give up. And so it's not easy, but I got a lot of support also from my family.
Yes. I know a lot of people have given up along the way, and so it's really, really important that we congratulate you for staying true and completing that.
Thank you very much.
You inspire a lot of us, honestly.
Thank you. I'm happy that I be able to inspire.
I'm quite curious. The role of Commissioner General of the GRA. Tell us about it. What exactly do you do?
I think the key role, tax policy comes from the government, even though as GRA we also recommend and make suggestions for the formulation of policy. So our key role is to implement the policy and to ensure that we are able to rake in the necessary revenue for the development of the country. So as the leader of the organization, it's quite a huge organization. We talk about permanent staff of about 7,000, and then other staff in terms of NAPCO and National Service of another 6,000. So we are looking at a 13,000 people organization.
Wow.
And so managing the people, human resource issues, managing the expectations of the people, as well as trying to look at the budget that you have to deliver and to come up with strategies that will ensure that we are able to deliver on the numbers. And at the same time, we are also looking at transforming the organization. So you have to constantly look at the transformation initiatives. And then there's a lot of thinking about being creative and innovative. And I always tell people that we've got to make sure that we don't do the same things all the time. You need to make sure that every time you are looking at what can I do better than previously, or why am I doing this thing the same way? And then that's the thing that will make sure that you're able to bring in the transformation. So basically, that has been the role of the Commissioner General. And normally, you have 3 other commissioners that you are responsible to. So we have the commissioner who handles the domestic tax.
Okay.
Then you have a commissioner who handles the customs division, and then you have a commissioner who handles the support. When I say support, things like the finance, the HR, the other
more administrative roles.
Exactly.
Okay.
So basically, the 2 domestic and customs focus on the revenue, and then the support, as the name implies, provides administrative support, and then you, as the Commissioner General, oversees all these three and brings them together to deliver the necessary revenue to develop our country.
You know, I do think about you sometimes, so yeah, and sometimes I pray for you because
thank you very much.
I mean, especially in
and
recent
your
times.
prayers are working.
Well, they better do, especially in recent times, because I think about. I mean, I listen to commentary of people who talk about the tax burden, and of course how they even see the GRA and all of that. You're supposed to oversee all of this, you know, make sure Ghanaians are doing their civic responsibility, paying their taxes and all of that. Do you sometimes also feel that Ghanaians are burdened by taxes?
I think that if you look at the number of, people who are actually paying the tax, you might say that Ghanaians are burdened, but I think that there's still a lot of room for improvement as far as the tax paying is concerned. Because as you will have noticed from the Ghana cards data in terms of the NIA gathered with data, and if you look at about 15 million registering for the cards, and then when we try to match it into the system to look at number of people who are paying, we are looking at about 3 million. So you see that, and there are a number of them. And when we did further analysis, we were able to identify that there are about the 12 million who are not paying. About 3 million also from that 12 million may be people who either are above the age or below the age or things like that. But there are 9 million who are income earning.
And
there are 3 million out of the 9 million who are middle income earning. And there are about 47,000 who are high income earning and professionals of top class who are not filing any tax and their names are not there. So definitely we need to be able to spread. And I am very happy with the initiative with His Excellency the Vice President's support that has come through with the Ghana card and being able to migrate it into the tin. And I think that is going to go a long way to bring compliance. And one of the things that we are going to do, because when I say that, back to your question on whether Ghanaians are overburdened, I think that there's just the fact that a few people are, carrying all of us. But the intention is to spread it so that we all take a portion of the burden.
Okay. And
one of the things that will help us to be able to achieve this is to move away from using just the tin as the requirement for some other government services into using the tax clearance certificates as a requirement for Ghana's government services.
Okay.
If you look at the Ghana card, when we said that everyone who should make sure that he has registered the SIM, and we are going to register the SIM with the Ghana card. Initially, when they started doing the Ghana card registration, it was the NIA chasing people and moving from office to office and place to place and town to town. When they said that if you don't do it, you're not going to get your mobile thing working. Now it's the people
who are moving
chasing
to
the
get
NIA.
it. Yes. And
if you're able to move on to making sure that you can't have a passport or you can't renew a passport if you don't have a tax grant certificate, you can't renew your driving license if you don't have a tax grant certificate, we'll get to the point of, and I'm sure we are on course.
You already switched into work mode. Let me bring you back. Let me bring you back now because we need to get to know a bit about your journey through life and through work as well. You've had a very colorful work life, and I'm sure people would want to know about it. But let's start off from where you hail from. So you Kapini, Anna.
You Kapini. You Kapini latte.
Latte.
You.
Oh, I see. Is that where you grew up?
Not really.
Okay.
My parents, both my mother and my father, come from Latte. The Mr. Jesse Usu Amwa and Mrs. Juliana Amwa, two Amwa. But I was born in Impraiso, and my father was then teaching at Impraiso Secondary School, which was Impas.
Okay.
And then my mother was teaching at the Impraiso Presby Primary School. So that's where I was born. And so I grew up more like a Kwawu.
Yeah.
And so at some point, I couldn't even speak the Kuyapim. Hey. I was more speaking Kwawu than Kuyapim.
I see.
But once in a while, my parents would take me to Latte. And my mother was very strict about you speaking the latter language. And that was one thing she made sure. She would not allow you to speak any other language in the house apart from Latte.
Why?
Because she wanted to make sure that we don't grow up forgetting the Latte. Because we're completely not going to Latte and we're staying.
Yeah.
He says,
do you still speak it?
Yeah, so I still speak Latte. We are 5 boys, and all the 5 of us speak Latte fluently.
Can we name you here?
But we can't duke it. Duke it, said yes,
oh, I see.
Yeah,
that's
so that's where I grew up. So I actually attended in Presby Primary School.
Okay.
And my mother used to teach me that when I was 5 years, he was teaching class 1. So he felt like if I'm going to school, let me just take Ami Shaddai around. They used to call me Ami. So he would take me to the school and let me just sit around in the class. So when he was teaching class 1, and he was just taking me to so for me, I was not registered in
as
class
a
1.
student.
So when the year ended and my colleagues were going to class 2, then he was now telling me, I already 6. Into I already started class 1. And he said, I told her that there's no way I'm going to be in class. I'll spend the whole year with the people. So if they are going to class 2,
I'm also going to class 2.
He said he struggled. Anytime she would go to school and go and put me in the class 1, by the time she's not watching, I'm back in class 2.
You've run to class 2.
So then he said, let him go. So basically, that's where I schooled. So I schooled in the Presby Primary School. They went to secondary Presby Middle School. So Form 1, Form 2, and then Form 2, I wrote the Common Entrance. And again, that one, around 11 years, when I wrote the Common Entrance, again, they told me, oh, Kotra here. And now Kotra here, and I tried you.
Yeah.
So I tried it, and then I selected Ghana Secondary School, Koforidua, as my first choice.
Yeah.
And then when the Common Entrance results came, I had passed, and then Ghana Secondary School had accepted me.
Wow.
So they said, oh, CS Kotra, there's no trial matter here. I'm ready. Yeah, me. So I have to go. So they have to allow me to go to Ghana Secondary School.
So you were jumped literally 2 times?
Yes, that's what I think. So that's how I ended up at Ghana Secondary School.
Then you were bright. Was there a certain profession that you wanted to do when you grew up?
I don't think I had, because I think when I went to Ghana Secondary School, when I started the Form 1, I was a bit tiny, and then I was in boarding house, and there was this issue about homeowing and all those things, and I didn't just like them. And so it's got a bit tough for me for the first 3 years in Ghana Secondary School. And then I also didn't like the art subjects very much.
Which of the art subjects were you doing?
So I was literature, French, Bible knowledge, and all those ones. And I started asking that, can't I do something business and things like that? They said, oh, no, Ghana Secondary School, we don't do business. So then later on, I told, fortunately, when I came to Ghana Secondary School, my father was also transferred from Empire Secondary School to Koforidua Secondary Technical School in Koforidua.
Yes.
Then Ghana Secondary was also in Koforidua.
Okay.
So again, even I forgot to tell her, when he came to Ghana Secondary School, I said, I want to become a day student. He said, why? I said, no, I don't want the home movie and those things.
Yeah.
So after first time, I went to stay home. Then I was walking from Sectech, those who know Koforidua, to Ghana's every morning and walking back. So when I got to Form 3, he was transferred from Koforidua Sectech to Asamanka Secondary School.
Okay.
Then Asamanka Secondary School were offering business. So when I saw that Asamanka Secondary School offering business, I said, Daddy, I want to now come to Asamanka.
Wow.
Then he said, no, Asamanka Secondary School. I said, no, that can do business. And so, but you have done 3 years of arts, and you are coming to do business in Form 4. You haven't done commerce before. You haven't done business method before. You haven't done accounting before. I said, don't worry. So he said, okay, you come. If you come, I give you the chance. First time, if you can't make it, I'll let you go to Form 3 so that you can go and repeat and get some of the business. So I was so determined that I want to do this business.
Yeah.
So when I came, I was so determined. It went through very successfully for me in Form 4. So then I started accounting, which I had not done before. Did business methods, commerce, economics, and then so that's how come I moved into. So there are from that. Then my vision was to move into, future into banking or any other business related.
But nothing piqued your interest. Where did that come from? The love for business. Where did it come from?
I think that when I found the art subjects a bit not very interesting to me, and then I found the science subjects a bit too difficult for me. Then I was trying to look for the middle way.
The middle ground.
Yes, and I felt like maybe this would be easier for me, because even though I was talking about business, mathematics I wasn't good at all, and I was really struggling with mathematics. So when I finished my O level, and I got 6 in mathematics, and when I got to the university, they said, "Oh, because you got 6 in mathematics, you can do economics for first year, but second year you have to drop it."
6, no, not just
when your credit year pass.
Yeah, they are chow.
Just say, if you want to do economics in the university at that time at UST, they said you have to get 4 in O-level mathematics to be able to do, because of the econometrics.
Yeah.
So I was so determined that where I've got to my economics. I want to do the economics.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure that when I go to the class, everything that the teacher will do on the maths, we're doing first year, we do mathematics for economics. And then second year, you do statistics for economics. And then third year, you do econometrics. I write everything that teacher will write on the board. And then when I go back to my hall, I make sure that I understand it before the next class comes. By the time I finish the first year, those who told me that you will not do the economics say, "Oh, now come and do economics." So that's how it happened.
So you grew up with, what, 4 male siblings?
Yes, 4
no
male siblings.
Girl?
No, okay. My father had an elder sibling, the daughter, before he got married to my mother. So she used to visit us. So she didn't actually live
with you.
So we're 5 boys.
How was it with the boys?
Oh, it was a lot of struggle, arguments. But one good thing about us was that even though my mother was always bringing in house helps, we learned to do everything on our own. And my mother, one of the things that also has kept me, it has been with me up to today. My mother used to say that "Somoho nyakwa." Somoho nyakwa. In other words,
yeah.
Serving yourself doesn't make you a slave.
Or something
so up to today, there are things that I'll do for myself. Somebody will wonder, "Oh, aren't you too big for?"
Yeah.
Then I'll remember my mother's then say "Somoho nyakwa." So if I want to do the thing for myself,
there's nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we learned to cook. We'll cook wache, we'll cook kenke, we'll cook bankun, akwele, everything.
Wow.
And so when you got married, sometimes we end up
you end up in the kitchen and teaching for.
It's not everybody who knows how to prepare wache. It's not everybody who knows how to prepare kenke. But because we.
That's right. No, at this point, the one of these days, you have to invite me over. No, you have to do the cooking. Okay. So now you're in KNUST studying your economics. You're quite convinced that you're getting into the business world. You graduate, and what next?
Yeah, whilst I was in KNUST, I think that's KNUST was just an opportunity for me, because it was actually a break from, because whilst I was in secondary school, the facilities were not there. Like in Asamanka secondary school that time, we had a generator. Sometimes the generator will go off. You have to learn with the lamps that we call bobo.
Bobo.
Yes, the one with the kerosene lamps and things like that. And I remember the first year I was going to UST. When I got my bag, my father drove me to the station, and then I was trying to get a vehicle to UST. And I stood there for a long time, and nothing comes. And then finally, one of these articulator trucks that usually you use for the cows came. And then he said he was going to Kumasi. I said, okay. So I jumped in. And interesting to you, that just before that, I was there with another lady who was a second year student in our town. So it was sort of he was now the second year student accompanying me to.
Yeah.
So as we were waiting for this, a private car stops by, and then he says, "Oh, where are you going?" He said, "Oh, Kumasi." So the lady rushes there, and I follow. Then he says, me and Nam. I say, "Yes." "Oh, sorry, remember, come from Akupe."
It's one famokra.
So I told the lady, "Oh, you go, don't worry." So don't worry, you go. So finally, the lady.
The lady went.
Yes.
Honestly, no,
because I encouraged her that you should. Yes.
Oh, that big girl, yeah.
So then the next thing that came was the articulator track. So I jumped in the articulator track. I was standing in the articulator track, holding the side of the thing, from Suhum all the way to Kumasi. That's how I entered. And one day I was sharing with one of my daughters. Interestingly, I was in 5 boys. I have 4 girls, 4 daughters. So
you did it on purpose. You were tired of the boys.
My mother said that I was giving her the daughters that
she didn't get. Oh, that's nice.
So when I was sharing a joke with her and said, when I was going to school, I went to school with an articulator track.
Yeah.
So thank God that you went to school articulator, so we can go to school for a plane. So when I got to UST, I was so determined that I need to, the opportunity I have got to be here. So I read economics, law, and sociology for the first year. And then second year, I wanted to drop the sociology and do economics and law. But somehow they didn't allow us to combine sociology and economics and law. So you must either do economics sociology or law sociology. So then I opted for the economics sociology, and that's what I did. And then when I left university, I did national service for 4 years.
You did national service for 4 years. How's that?
Okay, the truth of it is that when I finished my national service, I was looking for a job, and I couldn't get a job. And the national service offered me an opportunity to work as, actually when I was doing the national service, they had taken me as the district service coordinator.
Okay.
So I was more or less the leader of my own colleagues. So I was we all doing national service, but I was the district coordinator.
Okay.
So I was responsible for their salaries, all their postings and things like that in the district. That's the West Akim district in Asamankasi. And so when I finished my first year service and I haven't got a job, they said, "Oh, if you like, you can continue as your service for another year as a district coordinator." I said, "Okay." So I continued. Then after 3rd year, I still got a job, so I continued. So from 1986 all the way to 1990, 4 years I was doing service, and I was looking for jobs. And every day we are writing an application. And then when you write the application, those times they will post the letters.
Yeah.
So when you see the letter come, you are so happy, then you get. And when you open the letter, the first thing you see, we regret to. Then
we regret to.
And sometimes even when we have gone for interview, then they will say, "We thank you very much for the interview that I attended. They were very, very good candidates. So unfortunately, you could not make it."
Oh.
So you get so many of such
rejections.
letters. Yes, rejections. And for 4 years, I was still looking for a job. And sometimes you come to Accra with your certificate tuck under your armpit, trying to, somebody will recommend you to this one. Someone say, "Go and see this person, go and see that person." None of them worked. Until the 4th year when I had applied for some 3 jobs, one at the Ministry of Finance, one at the Ghana Statistical Service, and a private company. And all of a sudden, I have an appointment letter from Ministry of Finance, an appointment letter from Ghana Statistical Service, and an appointment letter for a private company.
Wow.
And so here was I now doing CC Lalako. You know that thing?
Yes. That
exactly. Try to find out which of the 3.
Yeah.
And so after a lot of debate, I decided to go to the Ghana Statistical Service. But then again, that time, when I got the appointment letter, they said, "Oh, wait, we are getting clearance." And I didn't understand what it meant by clearance. And so while they was waiting for clearance, January has passed. So then I said, then why don't I go and take the private
job like that?
Yeah. So I quickly went to the private. I said, "Okay, I'm coming." And it's okay, come. So then they took me. And at the time, I was still waiting. And so took about 7 months before statistical service eventually. So when the 7th month came, I left the private company and went to statistical service. So that's how I started.
Okay.
My,
How did you get into banking?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting one. So I was in statistical service as an assistant statistician, and I didn't do statistics. I did economics and sociology. And then one day I saw an advert, and they were asking for a statistician in Standard Chartered Bank. And I didn't have statistics. And in the qualification, they written statistics, but I applied because I was an assistant statistician. So when I applied, later on I saw that they have invited some of my colleagues who did statistics, and they've all gone for the interview. I wasn't invited at all. So when I wasn't invited, one day I got a call from somebody in Standard Chartered Bank. And they said, "Oh, are you so and so?" I said, "Yes." So you applied for the job? I said, "Yes." Say, you didn't really qualify, but I've met a number of people who qualified. But there's something we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who knows Harvard graphics. And that was a software that time that they would use for presenting your data in graphics and things like that. And we've noticed that even though you don't have statistics, you have the Harvard graphics. Can you come and let's chat? And I'll tell you the story about Harvard graphics. When I was in statistical service, there was one day, there was a job that they were doing for the, sponsored by the population, the United Nations Fund for Population Activities. And then, normally there was some allowances for this sort of job. Since the people took their job, they squandered all their allowances, but never finished their job. So later on, my boss came and said, "This job which was never done, we want some people to come and finish it." And then people were like, and I said, "Oh, I want to do it." So I opted to do that job, and there was no allowance for that job because all the allowances this kind of way. Then when I want to go and do that job, they said, "Oh, for you to do the job, you need Harvard graphics." I said, "Oh, so can somebody teach me Harvard graphics?" There was a lady who was called Abuna Samuabia. I remember her very well. She said, "Oh, I can teach you." So he spent time, taught me Harvard graphics.
Wow.
And I used Harvard graphics to do the job and finish the job. I didn't get paid for anything. I got my normal salary with no allowance for that. Then in Standard Charts, they call me and say, "We noticed that you have Harvard graphics, but your colleagues who came don't have Harvard graphics. Can you come and let's have a chat?"
Wow.
So I went and then we had a chat. That was not an interview. So after he had a chat with me, so okay, I'll come for formal interview. Went for formal interview. Now I was offered a job in Standard Chartered Bank.
That's a very interesting story.
Yes.
There are a lot of lessons to be picked up from that.
That's the one that I did, which people thought that you were doing donkey work.
Yes.
The money around it had been spent already.
Yeah.
And yet I took it like, let me just do it.
Yeah.
They say for you to do it, you need to learn Harvard graphics.
Yeah.
Harvard graphics got me my Standard Chartered
Wow,
job.
this is a very interesting story.
So that's how I ended up in banking.
In banking. If you're just joining us, this is Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM. This evening, I'm actually overwhelmed with the amount of stories you have to share. If we go on, there'll be so many stories that we would hear from the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu Amwa. He's my guest on Personality Profile tonight. So you had a very colorful, career in banking, worked with Standard Chartered Bank, Eco Bank, Bank of Africa. You were in Tanzania for a while with Eco Bank, right?
Bank of Africa.
With Bank of Africa.
Yeah.
And then you became the CEO of Unibank as well at a point.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that in my career in Standard Chartered actually went quite well by the grace of God. The Lord was good to me when I joined Standard Chartered Bank. In fact, one of the questions they asked me was that, by looking at your performance in the university, you want to do your master's? I said yes. So, but here we don't offer any, what do you call it, opportunity for you to do your master's here. I said, "Oh, don't worry, I believe in miracles." Then after 3 years in Standard Chartered Bank, they had this program where internationally we compete for 20 slots among all the 50,000 staff of Standard Chartered Bank across the group. And 20 people are selected every year to be sponsored to do a master's program while they are still working.
Yeah.
So in my third year, I applied. I didn't get it. Then the fourth year in Tanzania, I applied, and I was selected among the 20 people from across the globe
Okay.
to do that. And I rose quite fast in Standard Chartered Bank.
Mm-hmm.
Became the financial business support manager in finance, and then came to credit operations, and was responsible for West Africa as far as credit operations are concerned.
Yeah.
And then later on became the head of operations and technology. So while there, and then I was approached by EcoBank Group, and then I got the job as the group head of operations for EcoBank.
Okay.
So whilst I was there, I was also approached to come to Unibank, where I became the CEO for Unibank. So I joined Unibank in 2006 and became the CEO in 2007, and then ran Unibank up to 2011.
Okay.
So 2011, then I was approached again for become a CEO for Bank of Africa in Tanzania. And I thought that I am a bit adventurous and I love travels.
Yeah.
And I want to take the opportunity to feel like working outside. So I took that opportunity and left for Tanzania as the CEO for Bank of Africa in Tanzania. That was 2011.
Yeah.
So I went there on a 2-year contract. After the 2 years, it was renewed again for another 2 years, and renewed again for another 2 years.
Right.
So I ended up staying in Tanzania for almost 7.5 years. So running Bank of Africa in Tanzania.
I do have a feeling Zanzibar contributed to your long stay.
My children loved Zanzibar.
I can imagine. Why not?
Yes.
Now, when you look back now and you realize that one of the banks that you headed is no more, how do you feel? Unibank.
Yeah, it's definitely a sad feeling. I remember when I took over Unibank, it was a relatively small bank. It didn't have ATMs at the time, and we were able to, being very creative and innovative, get Unibank to be one of the banks that had ATMs across the country.
Yeah.
And we were doing quite well until I left in 2011. I think that for the other things that have happened, the important thing for us is for us to learn and see that you don't let whatever has happened in the past. So I think that basically it's unfortunate that it happened that way, but I still appreciate the opportunity I got in leadership role in Unibank for the 4 years that I was in the
Eventually, you moved from banking into taxation.
Yes.
Was it a difficult switch?
Yes, it was an interesting switch because one, apart from the fact that all my career has been banking, apart from the statistical service for about 3 years, and also it has been, apart from the statistical service, which was also the public sector, the rest has all been in the private sector.
Yeah.
And therefore, I had returned from Tanzania after the almost 7 to 8 years. I had expressed the wish to come back home. And so I returned from Tanzania, and I was playing a role as a group executive for the Bank of Africa Group, responsible for mergers and acquisitions. So basically, I was traveling to Senegal, Morocco, and things like that, trying to work in terms of identifying opportunities for acquisition. And then I got the opportunity to switch. So I had to debate it a little in my head, talk to people a little, and then finally I made a decision to do the switch. So it has been an interesting journey, and the last 2 years has also been quite an interesting time for my career as far as the taxation is concerned and the public sector.
What has happened in the last 2 years?
No, I've been just almost 2 years. In fact, October is exactly 2 years since I took over as the
Commissioner General.
Yes, and there's a lot of differences between, if you talk about the stakeholders, the stakeholders are many and diverse compared to the stakeholders that you have in the bank.
Okay.
In the bank, you look at your board of directors, your customers, and then your staff, and more or less you are done. But here you have the whole nation who are your stakeholders.
Yes.
You have other people, and then in addition you have, so it's a different ball game.
Okay. Lots of messages are coming in. You can also send us a WhatsApp message on 055-1111-997. Lexus, the man comes from my hometown. I'm from Akote, Bronte. Is that it? Yes. Tell him we're proud of him. I'm currently pursuing my master's in Germany, and that's Kweku. Thank you so much for your message, Kweku. Good evening, Alexis and your noble guest. I'm loving the conversation on his achievements and the journey, which prepared him for such an enviable position as GRA boss. Thank you so much for your message. We're live on Facebook. You can share the video and send in your questions as well. So, you talk about how, it's been quite challenging, of course, interfacing with more stakeholders than you actually would in the bank. Is there something that you would wish we would do differently in Ghana with regards to your job and taxation?
I think, as I mentioned, there are a lot of things that we can do to improve taxation generally, and a lot of initiatives. Some of them we have started, but there are a lot that we can do to deepen and widen.
Yeah.
When I say deepen and widen, bring in more, and then also ensure that those who are paying are also paying completely what they have to pay. And so that is very important.
Okay. I know you wouldn't want to get into the nitty-gritties of the budget and all that it comes with, levies here and there. One of the things I would want to find out, though, is, especially with the e-levy, should it take effect? Is the GRA capable of overseeing the collection of the levy?
Okay, that's interesting. But I've seen an interesting question here.
Oh, which one is it?
It says, how do you manage your social life with this busy schedule?
Ah, right. Okay, yeah. When we are done talking about the E-levy, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that we have to do before finally getting the E-levy, being collected.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, I have seen it in some other countries I have worked.
Okay.
And so I've seen it being collected, it's over a couple of, let's say, 4 years. And so what we are doing currently is making sure that, waiting to, not necessarily waiting, but whilst Parliament is still going through the necessary legislation that have to go through, we are also looking at various ways by which we have to implement the e-levy.
Okay.
And also, as the Minister of Finance mentioned, they are also looking at various inputs that people are bringing and trying to reshape what will finally come out. And we're also making sure that the technology that will allow us to be able to implement it is also well embedded. And so we are working towards being able to execute it successfully. And what other thing that we'll be bringing alongside is e-commerce, which is not necessarily part of the e-levy, but e-commerce and gaming and other things that we want to bring alongside this whole business of e.
Oh, really?
And that's separate from
the e-levy. Yes, I understand.
But we wanted to also make sure that we are looking at all these areas as part of growing the revenue for the nation.
Okay. So we would see policies,
the policies are already there.
E-commerce.
There's some small changes that we need to do. So we are actually working on that. And then we have to make sure that we have the platforms such that you come to a time, if you are not registered, let's say, for example, Netflix is not registered with the tax, you cannot initiate your Netflix transaction from Ghana.
Okay.
Because you have to make sure that we use tax it, and we are working on these platforms.
You have a big task ahead, sir.
Yeah.
You've learned a lot through life. What's the biggest lesson life has taught you?
I think that one of the biggest lessons that have taught me is to, people normally say that never give up, but to continue pushing, and don't look at the issue from afar and think that it's too difficult to do. Recently, I met one of my colleagues, and I had even forgotten, and then he told me that the time that he got to know what is inside me was a day that we were in Unity Hall, and I was on the 6th floor. Unity Hall.
Conti.
And I'm not saying that nobody should go and do what I'm going to say.
Don't try this at home, eh?
No, don't try this at home. And then I had come and I wanted to get to a lecture. And unfortunately, when I came, my roommate was not there. The thing was locked. And then I stood outside and I looked into there, and I saw that the back door was opened.
Mm-hmm.
So I scaled the wall from the next room into my room. Got my lecture notes, and then I ran off. So as I was going and I got down, and I looked up and saw the 6th floor, and I asked myself, what did you do? You scaled the wall. If you and this, my friend saw me. He says, Daddy, when you saw me, then you know that this man has a different thing. So basically, what I want to say is that when I was doing my master's at Trinity College, I was the MD for Unibank, and the class was starting at 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. By the time I got to the class, it's 7 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock. But we were 50 people that was first enrolled in that class. It was supposed to be a 1-year master's program. 25 people made it by the end of the first year, and I was included in the 25 people, even though I was a bit. Because sometimes you have to look at opportunities as they come.
Yeah.
And when I used to go to the class, one day I saw a lady. I remember her. Unfortunately, I've not seen her since this time. She's called Asiye. And she always come to the class with a laptop. Then so I went to her and said, what are you doing? He said, I can type very fast. So when the lecturer is talking, I'm typing. I said, so you type all the notes in your class? I said, yes. I put my hand in my pocket, took my complimentary card, and I said, yeah, this is my email address. Please, every day when you finish, just email to me. Wow. So whether I get there late or I get there, I always have the notes. And when it gets to the exams time, I'll take 2-3 days off from my work. And I'll make sure that 3 days I'll prepare. And I'll go and finish it and come back.
Yeah, you see, these are the ones who they won't come to class, but exams they will blow. The way that will be class and study won't pass.
Oh no, I'm make sure you go to the class as well.
No,
that's what it's very true.
Yes. I'm really grateful that you came in. I mean, there's so much we could have talked about, but unfortunately, I'm running out of time. Oh dear. Philip is telling me it's 2 minutes more, so we got to wrap up. But I've totally enjoyed hanging out with you today, and I need to say, God bless you so much for what you're doing. I speak to a lot of people who say you are such a fine gentleman and one of the ideal bosses that anybody would ever want to have. So God bless you and all your work at the GRA, and of course the team at GRA as well. I'm sure they support you in all that you do. Any final words to people out there who are listening?
I think that's one of the people. I mean, my church, also Tesano Baptist Church, where I am an associate pastor.
Okay.
I've got a lot of support from them, support of prayer, encouragement, right down from the head pastor, Reverend Chia, and the other people. And I want to encourage them. My family, my 4 girls, my 4 daughters, and my wife, who has been very, very supportive. And then for many of the people that I've led, who have encouraged me day in, day out, from Standard Chartered Bank to Unibank to Bank of Africa in Tanzania and EcoBank. I'm so grateful to all of them because they have really encouraged me and have pushed me to wherever I have come to. Thank you so very much.
You know, I feel sad that I have a whole Reverend Amisha Dai here and we didn't even talk about God. I think we should do a part 2. I mean, you know what I mean? We need to talk about God, family, a few nuggets for life, how to manage family. We didn't even talk about the social life and managing it and all of that. So, Reverend, I think we need to do a part 2 of this conversation. I know you are very busy, so I'll leave it to your schedule, but we'll find a way of getting you back in here so that we can continue and share more stories, because we want to hear more stories.
Thank you very much.
My name is Lexus Will. It's been such a great evening here with the Commissioner General of the GRA, Reverend Dr. Amisha Dai Owusu Amwa. He's been my guest on Personality Profile. Now, the video for this conversation is live on our Facebook page. Once we're done, you can go and actually, if you missed the conversation, you can go start from the beginning. It was so amazing having him, and share the conversation as well with your friends and family over the internet. I'm Lexus Bill. Thanks a lot to Team Drive. Have a great evening.